right, so I'm going to be interviewing you about the Tuba Studio.
Okay.
Which, if you didn't know, you're a part of.
Oh, really?
Yes. All right. So, first question. I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Okay, well, as you said, my name is Jesse. I'm a music education major. I'm a junior. This is my 6th year in the studio. I'm
6th year?
oh
Sixth
semester.
semester?
My apologies. 6 semesters. In the studio, I've been playing tuba for I think almost 10 years now. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a little bit of me.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your studio, just like a quick introduction.
I mean, well, firstly, it isn't just tubas; it's tubas and euphoniums. I think weirdly, it's the biggest in terms of staff since we have 3 for each. 3 for it's weird because we have like 2.5 euphonium teachers and 1.5 tuba teachers. So
Okay.
wrap your head around that one.
Well, how does that work then?
Like one of them is mainly euphonium. The other one is Dr. Baker, which he does both youth and tuba, and Dr. Dropnack does youth and tuba as well.
Okay. And the other is Mr. Davis, correct?
Yes.
Is it Mr. or Doctor?
Mr.
Mr. Okay.
Mr. Doctor.
Mr. Dr. Professor Davis.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. Anything else?
I mean, like in terms of things we do, I guess. I don't know if that's one of the questions, but what we usually do is, like in a normal year, we obviously have recitals and stuff. We also do Tuba Christmas. We also have just random performances just for us, and we usually have like school traditions. So like October Fest, we always have that, which it's always fun. So hopefully this next semester we get to go back like into doing those kinds of performances, because quite frankly I miss those.
Right, yeah, for sure. I think we all do. I for one definitely miss Tuba Christmas. All right, so what kind of things are assigned for lessons in your studio? Like, what does Dr. Baker assign you?
It depends on your skill, and also another big component depends on how much you have prepared. I mean, for me, usually, since it's kind of the end of the semester, is usually just working on my jury piece. But before then, it's just like etudes, excerpts, and just things to just minor things to work on. I mean, even then, there's a time where lessons we just work on like just small fundamental things. I mean, recently, you've been helping me out with high range and just thinking about how can I make it easier, or again, not adding pressure to my phase. It just depends on one, how you're playing, and 2, how much you have prepared. My biggest advice is usually like try to have more prepared, or just try to be ahead. That's why usually for me, every time I ask him like, hey, what do you want me to have ready? And then he was like this, and I was like, cool.
Okay, so I know obviously this depends. It varies player to player. But on average, what would you say is the percentile split between like fundamentals slash like skills and skill development versus etudes and repertoire?
Again, it just depends on the day and how you feeling. I was thrown back recently. We just started to do warm ups. I was like, oh, okay. And then we did etudes. So like I think it just depends on the split. But if it's usually like the usual lesson, I would say like 80% rep and 20% fundamentals and warm up. Just depends. And also depends obviously the year and all this stuff. Like if you have your JLP, then we're gonna work on scales, sight reading, and other stuff. But since I'm past that, I'm just working on rep and just getting better on F tuba.
Okay, awesome. So, other than the lessons themselves and a jury at the end of the semester, what are you graded on in your lessons?
Well, obviously, one, showing up.
Right.
Two, that's a big part of the grade. We also, I'm just drawing blanks. We also have scale juries, which essentially is toward the end of the year, and you play like set scales that's already assigned depending on your class. So since, let's just say I'm a freshman in my first year, I'm only in charge to learn my major scales. And then if I was a sophomore in my second semester, I would have all 48 in preparation for your GLP. And if you're a junior up, it's now just bell scales, which is a set of warm up scales that you have to do. Sucks, but it makes me feel. It makes me a better player, so and gets me to learn all my diminished and minor keys.
Yeah, well, being a better player is definitely the end goal, so I'd say that's a good thing.
Yeah. Another thing that we were graded on is tune tests.
Okay.
Which essentially are just like you learn like a tune, like let's just say, as simple as "Happy Birthday" to as complex as Lohengrin, one of the main the prelude to Lohengrin in all 12 keys. He picks out a key. Hope to God you practice. And then we do Versailles, which is exactly the same concept, except it's just from a trumpet warm-up book.
Okay.
So it helps us learn how to transpose and just prepare ourselves when we get into classes like conducting and or just other advanced classes where we're like away from our usual bass clef. So yeah, it definitely has helped me out. One thing he's added recently is opera reviews. He's a big Dr. Baker for me especially. He's very big on knowing repertoire for tuba, and he's a big nerd. And you could at one mention of an opera, you can go days talking about it. So he assigns an opera, and he just tells us to write a paper not about like the synopsis or just orchestration. It's just like what do we feel about it and if we liked it or not. And a lot of the rep he's selected for us range from things I would rather not hear again or experience or things that I'm down to listen to or honestly are on my playlist now. And one last thing he does every second semester, so spring, we always do our resume projects, which again, it's in preparation for, getting out there and doing stuff. We just make a resume and then freshman year, you make a resume, cover letter, and CV. But as you go on as a junior and higher, the only thing you need to worry about is just updating it and seeing about the format.
Okay.
Like you don't. It's weird because it's like at freshman year or first semester was so overwhelming, but now it's just like you're just adding stuff. And I mean, for me at this point, it's just like changing what prioritizing when it comes to my job. And I've gotten jobs from my resume from him, so I'm very fortunate to have a professor who cares about the logistic things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when it comes to selecting repertoire, for the most part, does Dr. Baker assign you repertoire for solos, or do you get to pick and choose what you play?
He has an idea of what he wants you to play, but if you don't feel the piece at all, then like he has options, and usually like he picks from the standard tuba rep. So like mainly like your first 4 semesters are usually like tuba staples from the UIL PML list. And I mean now that I'm playing F tuba, he gave me the choice of playing. He gave me the choice of playing either the Vaughan Williams Concerto or the Gregson Concerto. So I think Concerto was the theme of this semester. So yeah,
Okay.
And I usually have an opinion, and honestly, I remember I just went up to him and asked like, "Hey, I want to do something lyrical this semester?" Or he usually transitions from technical to lyrical, technical to lyrical. So it just depends on what are you gonna do, or like what skill level you have, because he's not gonna assign you anything difficult, but he's gonna assign you something that's gonna challenge you and make you a better musician. For certain that I've played tuba rep that I've heard so many times, but it's made me better, so I'm happy with that.
Right. So, that being said, does Dr. Baker have a specific style or like era that he likes to choose rep from? Like, for example, does he favor contemporary music or like all the way back to Baroque music, or like a specific region of music, like American music or foreign music or anything like that, or is it just kind of an all-around thing?
From my experience, he likes to pick more to the Baroque and 20th century music.
Okay.
Like, Wagner, obviously.
Right.
Obviously, that's a name that comes to mind for tuba rep, or just like things of that like magnitude. he's open to anything as long as it sounds good. I mean, I'm pretty sure if I ask him like if he's played this piece, he's probably played it all. So
Okay.
yeah, I think that like era where we get cello music, I think it's good because that repertoire just teaches you like not only exposes you to like what a tuba can sound like, but it also expands like what is this music based off of, and how interpretation. You find different interpretations from like cello. I remember I did a piece by Rich Vaughan Williams, and it was made for cello. And like anytime I wanted to listen to a reference or how I wanted it to sound like, I always pulled up the cello recording.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Something like that.
Yeah.